Okay, I'm gonna get in and actually start dismantling the head, because until I get this old extruder and fan out, I really don't know what I'm getting into. So the first thing I've got to do, as you can see this wire tie here, that actually holds this cable harness in. So that's going to be clipped, and you should clip it, right here, toward this side of the head, the gear side of the head. So there's a little hole, that this wire tie goes into back there, which actually, means the thing is strapped through there. So it's, you're going to want to be able to pull the head back through. So go ahead and clip that wire tie, and then I should be able to just pull this on out like so. And again, I'll have to feed a new one in later, but now that we've done that, let's see what we got on the harness here. So this is the fan wire right here. Let's see, this looks to be the wire and cable assembly to the lower fan. This, I assume, is some sort of a wire to the thermocouple or varistor, or the thermistor, or whatever they used. This is the power supply to the heating element. But at any rate, I had to kind of remove these wires because, see, I got to get to these two screws here. Those are, on this model, what actually supposedly holds the heating element in. So it's Phillips screws, that are kind of going on either side of the extruder block. So see if I can set this thing up so we can see what I'm doing here. And keep in mind, I've never done this before, so what you're seeing is actually a first run effort at any of this. I'm going to guess my way through it. Try to get these screws out of here. Now you're supposed to release these screws one at a time. And keep in mind too, I have also, pulled the filament out, when I heated up the extruder, so that I could actually pull the filament out of the top, by releasing the pins, because it's got this little that's odd. It's got this little assembly here, which actually holds the filament in. But anyway, I had to heat the head up, to actually pull the filament on through before I started working on this. Any remaining filament I pulled out of there, out of the extruder while it was hot. Screw gun, but for this, but I like to try to be gentle. That's why I prefer using manual screwdrivers on things like this. Screw guns can get a little overzealous. Stripping things out or over tightening it, what have you. But I'm not going to fully pull these screws out, just far enough to where I can remove the extruder is my plan. But I'm going to alternate from left to right on that. this thing hold down. Starting to turn easier now. Switch back to the other side. Okay, let's see if the extruder will come out at this point. Oh yeah, it's loose. Okay, now I got it loose, but I'm going to go ahead. Now before I unplug any cables, I don't really, since these plugs aren't labeled, I don't really want to unplug cables just haphazardly. So I definitely got to go ahead and pull the cable with the heavy wires in it. That connector is the the power to the heating element. So I just kind of move that out of the way. But like I said, the extruder is fairly loose at this point. I don't know if it's actually free, but it's fairly loose. There's another group of wires on top of the extruder, and I assume that's for that's probably goes to here. I'm assuming that's for the thermocouple. But I'm going to go ahead and leave the fan plugged in, because see, the thermocouple, if that in fact is what that is, these wires are thin. This is a thick wire here that supplies power to the heating element, and this is a thin wire, which would probably be a signal line. Again, I don't think it's the fan line, because they didn't send me a thermocouple as far as I could tell, so in that little kit, so this I'm going to have to try to reuse. But again, so far I've only disconnected that, what's theoretically a thermocouple line, and the power to the heating element, but I'm going to leave the rear fans connected so I don't get lost on it. I could mark the wires if I have to, but again, try to keep this as simple as possible. Let's see, now you can see around here are the two wires. You see, this is why I think it's a thermocouple, because that's some sort of a insulative thermal wrap they have around there for heat insulation from the looks of it. So, but I think that's the mechanism. Now let's see, because I don't know if this extruder is actually loose yet or not. I don't think it is. I think it's still caught on the screws. So let me remove the screws a little bit further. Back them out a little more. Actually, I probably ought to put something below that, because that thing may just fall out and crack my table. So lay a towel underneath it, because that extruder may just fall out, since this is going to take in both of my hands here. So I've set a towel underneath it, because this thing may just drop out of there. I don't know. So I don't want cracking my glass table there, my glass bed. These screws are quite loose at this point. What's this one here is? So loose I could probably just pull it out. It's quite loose as well. so loose I can twist it by hand. This other one's still a little bit tight. It seems like that's as far out as it wants to come. It's still hung up in there on something. You know, because apparently it's stripped out right there at the hole. Using these pliers to exert a force. Well, that's how you break your bed right there, dropping stuff on it. Well, I don't know. There it goes. Okay, and that, see this, the fan shroud was just held in there by friction. That's what I deduced looking at it. I could never figure out how it was actually held in there. Now the extruder still can't get free. There it is. Okay. Alright, so our fan is dangling here. And the fan housing shroud they sent me is not going to work. It's a different design. They must be in the process of changing their design. Here is the defective extruder, and you can get a much better look at what's been going on with it. You can see the leaking plastic, out of that that area there, around the around the top of the heater block. So it doesn't appear like it's leaking out of this heat sink here, but it's definitely bubbling out of the top of the heater block. As you can see, that's all, that red stuff there is all molten, formerly molten plastic. This fan, however, we're certainly going to have to replace. It's got two screws there. I'll go ahead and at least remove the shrouding so I can make the shroud for the fan, so I can make sure that it's going to fit, on the new head. I'm sure it probably will, but like I said, forgive the crudeness of this film. I've never really made a film like this before, and I'm sure I'll get better at it one of these days. But that's the cheapy, noisy little fan. But it's the cause of the problem. It's about a 1-inch fan, 1 inch by 1 inch. But at any rate, again, with the kit they sent, you could, as I was saying earlier, you could literally pull this wire out of this split loom tubing, and open up the back of the machine and replace it, because it looks like they sent you a complete replacement cable, or sent me one anyway. And if you can't solder, if you don't have soldering skill, that would be the way to do it. But to me, this is just as fast. This is some very thin zip cord here, but with a little carpet knife or something, I'll have to split the wires on it so that I can strip them and solder the new wire kit they gave me up to that, so that I can try to then put some heat shrink tubing on it, shrink it down, make a nice proper repair, and then we can put everything back together in theory, you know. But again, the new extruder should be, you know, those screws that I removed, it should just set back up in there, and see the screws actually go to either side of this little rounded area here. You know, there's one screw on this side and one screw on this side. So that's how they hold it in. It appears, coming over here, no, you know, looking at the new one, it appears that again, they're actually moving to this plate. I did have contact with them since I started this video, and they said this I don't need. But clearly this other alternate design of this fan shroud, which you can see is different than this one. You know, they've changed the design. But this, you know, this new one has a hole there, and you can tell this little bracket here actually lines up with the hole, especially if you try stupid stand. Let's say this plate right here actually locks around this, and you can tell if you take this fan shroud that it's actually got kind of an octagonal fit to it, and so does this. And if you actually put it on here, you know, this actually aligns with that hole. So this bracket and this new fan shroud is meant to actually mount like this, from what I can deduce. Got a little nut and bolt that goes in there. But this is some design they haven't implemented yet, so this is probably for some future machine they're working on or something like that, or a design change. This would look to be a much better, big quality improvement if they actually implement this. It'd probably allow them to more easily implement multiple extruders, which I hear they're working on a machine for that, their next generation machine. But anyway, you can tell, you know, again, looking at the new extruder assembly, you know, which these are pretty much identical, you know, from the looks of it. They're pretty much identical, but you can tell one's leaking plastic and the other isn't, you know, right up here close and personal this way. So you can see what this should be, what it looks like even after a lot of use, whereas this is what it looks like after about 4 or 5 prints. So it's leaking rather profusely. So anyway, I'm going to turn this off and study this for a little while, and I'll get back to you. But you know, it does look like, you look at how coated, you know, that head is. You know, that's what a clean one is supposed to look like. But the extruder head, man, that is really coated. You know, actually fully coated with plastic. You can actually see, you know, how plastic is actually not. Because I was wondering where the plastic's actually coming from, because, you know, there's no real sign of any drips around the side of this. At first, that's what was so confusing. I couldn't see plastic really leaking out of anywhere. But what was happening is it's actually going behind this rubber shroud, you know, and it's been going behind it and actually leaking out the extruder, you know. So this plastic was blowing up in here and going through this rubber shroud, and, you know, it's actually got the hole clogged, so I can't even, I don't know if I can get the set screw out. I'll give it a try. But, you know, that hole's probably pretty well clogged, because I got to get that set screw out so I can remove the heating element so that I can get the boot off. But I don't know if I can, you know, get my Allen wrench through that, because it's got plastic all built up in it. So, see what I can do with a little screwdriver. God, you know, yeah, it's just completely clogged. Yeah, this thing may be like a real lost cause. Huh. Yeah, it's got, you know, that little set screw that I put in the side of the heater block, you know, is really quite stuck. You know, it's clogged with plastic behind this rubber boot. And it's no wonder, you know, because I told them they could send me an RMA, you know, on this thing, you know, if they wanted to, you know, wanted me to send it back, you know, as long as I handle the postage. But I can see why they didn't bother, you know, because, like I said, geez, this would probably be, you know, cost way more money to try to clean this thing up than to just build a new one. God, I mean, this is bad. Anyway, I'll work at it and see if I can get this thing apart. Okay, I did manage to get this set screw out after some effort. However, I'll bet you this right here is probably glued into it with hot melt plastic. But I got to kind of get this thing apart because, see, again, they didn't send me a thermocouple, so I got to get this thermocouple out. It feels fairly loose. I don't know if it's secured in there in some fashion. Parts of it are really quite glued to it. I guess this VLA or whatnot makes a halfway decent glue. Fortunately, it's not that bad, I don't think. See, I might be messing this thermocouple out because I hit it with my screwdriver. Because I don't know how this thermocouple's in there. I don't know if it's just, I mean, this stuff is so glued in there. I'm going to be pissed if I have to get them to send me a thermocouple. You see, I'm trying to get this thing off, so what I really need to, you know, remove the boot, but it's glued, you know, the heating element has become glued into the block because of all the plastic running behind this. So, because of that, I got to try to get the rubber off, because this should come out first, but I can take a pair of snippers and snip that off, and that's what I'm going to end up having to do. But I figured first I'll see if I could just actually try to tilt the rubber boot off of it, if possible. It probably won't be possible. Oh yeah, hell, this thing's so loose I could actually turn it by hand. Huh. So I notice there seems to be some kind of nut on top of this thing. That's apparently what this wrench is for. You know, if you actually insert it up here, this wrench actually locks on to something, so it's kind of hard to see, but there is an actual nut of some kind. But this is the new one, and I don't want to try twisting this thing since supposedly this is tightened on properly. Yeah, salvaging this thing would probably be kind of a lost cause. Man. Well, I don't know. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and work at this some more. Okay, after considerable effort, I managed to pry the thing off. And you can see what's going on. What just fell out of there was a, you know, thermocouple, because there's actually this hole right next to where the heating element is. You know, there's a hole right there where this thermistor, whatever this is, goes in. Again, I think they said they used a thermistor, but, you know, I don't know. It looks like it probably is a thermistor, but I'm not really sure. Haven't seen a whole lot of thermistors. I hadn't dealt with them very often. But, anyway, but I do have the boot off. I think this, you know, you can see what happened. You know, all this plastic that's melted around this thing. You know, it's just oozed everywhere, and it was just kind of glued that thing to it. really hate this tripod, these little tripods that have, here, I'll show you. I'll never buy these. Little tripods made of this, kind of stuff, they suck. I thought it was kind of neat at first because they're compact, but man, they're hard to control. Anyway, let's see. So, yeah, I mean, it's, like I said, kind of got at it from both sides. It's hard to say if this thing will ever come out of here again. Jeepers. Yeah, I'm surprised how well this crap sticks to metal. You know? Different thermal properties. You'd think it wouldn't stick, but it kind of does. I'm probably poking myself here. Yeah, that thing's probably pretty much stuck in there. Jeepers. You know, seeing this thing, it makes me wonder, you know, how difficult it'd be to actually clean one of these things if you ever had to clean a nozzle. I don't know how that would happen. And like I said, I'm wondering why this twists like this. Okay, take my little snippers here and see if I can pry some of this plastic off. Jeepers, this stuff's on here. Man. It's like bullets whizzing past my head. Man, this stuff is on here. Huh. I'm really surprised this sticks to that aluminum so well. I didn't think plastic would bond all that well. Must be a lot of adhesive properties or something to this stuff. Makes you wonder if you can actually fuse aluminum. You know, because that's what I still say I'd like to have. I'd like to have a 3D printer where I could actually, you know, take a piece of metal or something like that I want and actually be able to print around that somehow. I mean, it'd be hard to get a nozzle in, but, you know, it'd be nice to be able to do something with inclusions. You know, at some point they need to kind of figure that out. Like I said, you know, it'd be nice to be able to take, you know, plastic and bond it to certain metal parts, you know, and parts out of other materials too, and actually kind of pick up there. Yeah, man, well, I'm doing some damage to this aluminum trying to claw this stuff off. Probably end up cutting this tube by accident. Jeez, I mean, I can't believe how well this is bonded. This is bonded really well. Like I said, some kind of, you know, if you can find out, you know, what plasticizer this, you know, VLA uses, you know, it'll probably dissolve off, I would assume, but if it's for ABS, you could use acetone, but, yeah, so I scraped the heck out of it trying to claw this stuff off. Yeah, I would have thought it would just flake right off, but it won't. Man, this is stuck and stuck good. Jeepers. That's why everything just basically gets glued in, you know, it's unbelievable. Anyway, I mean, mean, this isn't really technically part of the prepare video. You don't have to do all this. I'm just really curious about this thing. Man, you know, I need some heavier duty tools than what I have over here. Okay, I got the little thermostat out of the other head, because as I said, they don't actually send you one of these, or they'd send me one. But I got to take this back apart a little bit, in order to install it. So, put the set, loosen the set screw in there and pull out my heating element. Remove the rubber thing off of it. Be careful how you handle this. That tube on this thing, like I said, is very, very small. As you can see, it can be quite easy to actually bend this thing if you're not careful, so try to be extra careful with this. But let me try to loosen it here. Okay, so I've exposed the hole where the thermocouple or thermistor goes into it. So as you can see, I'm going to put the thermistor in that hole and leave the wires kind of hanging out toward the top like it was on the other unit. Oops, I think it slipped out. Oh boy. Okay. Hopefully that's in its place. Oops. So there should be a slight bend to it. So I'm going to make sure it's not going to come back out of this thing here. Okay, now, well, wait a minute, I guess they did send me one of these. They actually did send me another thermocouple, I just didn't see it, because I didn't even know what it looked like. So, I mean, because this whole thing was disassembled, so they actually did send me a new one. Oh well. Anyway, so I guess you don't have to go through the trouble of trying to salvage your old one after all. So I guess I was wrong about that. Okay. I'm surprised that send you so many wires and stuff, most of which you don't need. That just didn't even register on me when I saw it. Okay. Again, and so that should be a completed assembly of the new extruder. So anyway, like I said, later I'll still try to continue taking the old unit apart, because again, I wanted to get a closer look at how this thing, where it leaked. I already tried scraping a lot of that plastic off of it with my nippers, and boy, it sticks good. Still can't get the old heating element out of it. I'm sure I could heat it up and probably slide it right out, but hook it up to a power supply and that would probably get it loose. But I don't know. Anyway, just the next step, I did actually, looking on the internet, Jerry there from Robo3D sent me this link to this picture right here on Thingiverse, which is actually how that's seen from underneath, how that new fan housing is supposed to mount. There's apparently a screw under there, for this new shroud. So, you apparently can actually install that thing, which I'll probably go ahead and do, because that must be some kind of a design improvement or something. I don't know. anyway. We'll do that here in a little bit.